Yeah, it's recording. So today I want to talk a little bit about shed hunting, and you guys, you're not going to believe what I'm telling you right now, but me and Drew here, we're just having a back and forth conversation. I'm trying to get her to frame up how I'm looking on the camera, and I just looked over right on this community scrape here, right in this food plot, and I got a shed right here. I haven't even told Drew that I just found this yet. That's why I'm saying you guys aren't going to believe this. But yeah, so today I want to talk a little bit about shed hunting, and as you can see, it's starting to warm up here in Wisconsin, southwest Wisconsin. But I want to warn you, this isn't time to go and push into your bedding areas and try to find those sheds, because if I'm being honest, I don't think even 30 or 40% of bucks have shed yet. If it is, that's a very recent number that just got hit. Most of the bucks that I'm getting on camera here still are holding both sides, and at least one, right? There was one deer, a good 3.5-year-old, maybe a 4.5. He dropped a horn in early January, but other than that, that was the earliest deer that I saw drop. So I'm just gonna warn you guys right now, don't go barging into your high quality bedding areas that a lot of your deer herd is spending time in right now, because we're just gonna blow them away. Last thing we want to do is blow our whole deer herd out, the buck herd, and have them drop their horns elsewhere, right? We want to pick up the horns for ourselves, right? So right now, me and Drew are going to do a little walk through here. We're going to do a little farm walk, but we're not going into the bedding areas here. We're not going in deep, right? I'm going into the staging areas just inside the wood edge. It's February 1st. I'm going to stay in the fields. I'm going to stay just in those staging areas right before these deer go out and feed for their evening meal. So that's kind of what I want to get across to you guys here today is don't go barging in too early. That's a mistake I've made in the past as well. Last year was my best shed hunting season in Wisconsin on the properties that I hunt, and I picked up like 7. So it's hard enough to pick up these sheds and find these sheds here in a high pressure state like Wisconsin. High competition to find these sheds. The public land isn't as high quality as it can be in other states. So you're not gonna find a large majority of sheds on those properties. When we're talking about shed hunting on private land, we're gonna try to maximize everything we can do to pick up the ones that are gonna be dropped here on our own properties. So first and foremost is you need a late food source. You need multiple late food sources, high quality at that. Now, I'm looking at a standing grain field. Like I've said in other videos, that's not top priority for a whitetail. That is last priority supplemental type food. I'm also standing in a food plot here. What I've got growing is rye, radishes, some rape, turnip. This is a high quality green food source that's easily digestible for these deer, and it's highly attractive food source for them right now. Especially when it starts to feel like springtime here, deer are really hitting that green food source with a lot of moisture content. You gotta remember, these deer haven't had a lot of open water that they've been able to drink and access most of the winter. So these deer really wanna get that high moisture content, get that level up, so they're getting that through their food sources. So first and foremost, high quality food sources. And at the end of the day, browse, native regen, bedding area food sources are gonna be top priority. So if you have the bedding, you have that high quality cover, that thermal cover that deer are really seeking here in the winter months, you're gonna hold a lot of deer, and you're probably gonna find a lot of sheds if you stay out until the time is right and you have a high percentage of picking up the biggest amount of sheds that you can. So at the end of the day, when we're hunting small properties, property I'm standing on here is less than 100 acres. So when we're talking about less than 100 acres in the average home range of a buck, which is 600 to 1,200 acres, could be less, could be more, but that's the average. That's where it's sitting most of the time. That's a pretty low percentage to find a specific buck's horns on that property, right? So the last thing we want to do, like I said earlier in the video, is we don't want to go barging in here early, too early, before these deer have actually shedded their antlers. And as we're just breaking into 2024 here, it's been a pretty mild winter. We've had 1 week where it was below 0 for multiple days here in Wisconsin, which is, you know, pretty rare. It's been pretty mild. As you can see, we don't have a lot of snow. We've had one big snowfall, and that was 10, 12 inches, but over the course of the last few weeks, that's melted away. These deer are back in the timber again. They're onto the food sources they can now access again that they were in December when we had no snow at all. So that's what I want to get across to you guys today is temper yourself. Don't push into areas that you don't necessarily need to yet. The sheds that you find are still going to be there in a month, right? Now, when we're thinking about squirrels or rabbits or whatever chewing these antlers up, yeah, that's a possibility, but you'd rather pick an antler up versus not pick anything up, right? So let's remember that before we barge in when the weather gets nice and we push all these deer off our property so they can drop their horns elsewhere. Because like I said, 20 to 30% probably is about that number that has dropped both antlers as of right now here on February 1st. So remember that. So let's remember this here as we're coming into springtime, we're ending winter, and I guarantee you it'll help you pick up more sheds this spring.